When Trump lackey Minority House Leader Kevin McCarthy was trying to have it both ways by defending Liz Cheney, but also refusing to chastise the Qanon Marjorie's incendiary comments and views, not to mention actual physical threats toward members of the Democratic caucus, the House Democrats exercised their majority power and took away her committee assignments. Nancy Pelosi explained their actions by saying, hey, if we ever have members on our team that threaten violence on Republicans, then you can be sure we will remove them ourselves. From an astrological perspective, this outcome illustrates rather well an astrology rule I've come to appreciate over the years because on first sight, it seems a little counterintuitive. Qanon Marjorie gets kicked out with Saturn in an exact trine to her sun. Normally you think of trines as something harmonious, good, helpful, and in a general sense, that is true. However, it's important to look at all transits by first assessing what's going on with that planet at the time of birth. And when you check that, you see that she was born with Saturn squaring Pluto. And Saturn doesn't get any supportive aspects from other planets. So, when Saturn transits anything in any aspect, it will bring the energy of the original square to Pluto into play, which means you see a trine that is functioning more like a square. Of course, if transiting Saturn were actually in a square, chances are the result would be even worse. We do have to remember that, as mentioned in a prior video, the big pickle she is dealing with in 2021 is transiting Pluto, putting a lot of pressure on her Venus-Mars-Uranus T-square, and this becomes the bigger reason why she's getting rejected in this manner. It's just that the Saturn trine doesn't help, it actually adds more to it. And as another example of trines that aren't necessarily happy trines. Normally the years when Jupiter by sign trines your sun sign tend to be good. But notice that Jupiter in Aquarius transiting trine her sun sign Gemini, which also contains Mercury, the ruler of her sun, didn't help to save her from this humiliation and may even have contributed to her arrogance, a sure sign of Jupiter running amok, when the exact trine to her sun took place in the middle of January and she was running her mouth, thinking it was safe to act like a tool in the halls of Congress. I'm sure that made her a lot of friends. Another astrological rule illustrated by the Pluto transit is that while transiting Pluto does endow you with a measure of power, you have to be careful how you use it or it will turn on you. You feel like you're doing something purposeful and even that it is beyond yourself and important, but if mismanaged, that beyond yourself part, which is basically society in the form of your peers, turns against you. Now remember, this doesn't mean if you find patterns similar to this in your chart, you would also get results like this. The reason Marjorie is running into brick walls is because, like the cult leader she follows, the Orange Menace himself, she likes to play to the low end of her planets, and so she gets low-end results. If you tune into the more wholesome side of planetary energies, odds are good that you will avoid these kinds of humiliations, and the tricky trines can instead be periods of growth and forward movement in life. Watching whack job Qanon Marjorie operating, I strongly suspect she's going to have a rough time of it in 2021 because Pluto will continue to put pressure on that T-square. And if she keeps talking and acting like a terrorist instead of a House representative, she may completely isolate herself or perhaps even suffer total expulsion from Congress. And Pluto moves slow, so that by the 22 midterms, it's still close enough to that T-square to be troublesome. And I wonder if she will survive those elections. I'll tell you one thing, if she does, it'll be a kind of absolute proof of the disease currently afflicting the Republican Party, namely that their ranks are infected with what amounts to human flotsam.